Hello, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to another session of CareersPlus Pathfinding Workshop Session 6. In the previous session, we worked on how you present yourself on paper and online. Today, we focus on what happens when the paper turns into a conversation. Interviews don't measure how perfect you are. They measure how clearly you communicate, fit, intent, and readiness. So without further ado, I would like to invite Mr. Bargab Mohandas to start the session, Interview Skills, Job Applications, and Professional Branding. Hello, Mr. Bargab. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, everyone, and it's so good to have Professor Dieter back among us in person. So, of course, during the Q&A and during discussion, we'll have a lot more interaction. So, yeah, so last week, sorry, not last week, the time goes so fast, just 2 days back, earlier this week. So earlier this week, we focused on the aspects that the starting aspects we are preparing ourselves to go out and fetch ourselves jobs, right? So today, like after getting acquainted with the basics pertaining what is CV, what is resume, how we can have a good presence in our LinkedIn profile, and so on and so forth. So let's move towards the aspect of the interviews. Sorry, before I go forward, can I have the screen clear in front of me? Because at the moment I can't. My eyes are not that bad. I mean, after wearing specs from age 11, I stopped wearing them about a couple of years back, but still my eyes haven't got that good that I can read such a small screen. Okay, can. All right, that's okay. Now it's perfect. Perfect. Okay. So today is the part 2 of our integrated professional identity session. So last session, not last week, earlier this week, during the last session, we had the discussion about the different forms, the different platforms where we can express ourselves. So today, I think let's go forward towards the interview skills that we would like to, so we have assumed that we have come across a proper platform establishment and we got the interview invitation. So where we go from here on. You see, like I believe most of us who are following the sessions on a regular basis, we can come across the continuity or the or not just continuity, but the relation amongst the one session to the other. We had 2 sessions back, we had in-depth discussion about how a conversation is, how useful when it is properly done in a mutual way, mutually beneficial two-way. So now we are getting back into that aspect again. So an interview by default is a two-way evaluation, okay? So it is a conversation about being fit, and from the employer's perspective, it's more of a risk reduction exercise. So just to elaborate a little bit on it, when we say two-way evaluation, so obviously an interview is always a conversation where two or more individuals, so if we go as an interviewee, so we have a two-way communication with our potential employer, and it's an evaluation for either side. Why? Because the employer will see if the prospective employee serves the purpose, and at the same time, the prospective employee, that is us, if we are very clear, we have absolute clarity on what we require. So we also can evaluate at the same time that if successfully getting selected after this interview serves the purpose of our career goal, right? So that's why, following from the first point, it's a conversation about being fit. about being fit for both parties. From the employer's perspective, it's a conversation of checking the person about being fit for the role and responsibility in their company and or the organization, whatever organization it can be any kind of organization. And at the same time, for the interviewee, to see that okay, if this approach is fit enough for their career's perspective. Again, presuming that following Careers Plus Plus way, the individual has absolute clarity in terms of this chosen career path. And it's a risk reduction exercise for the employer. So this is more so for the employer because whenever an employer is interviewing a potential employee, so obviously there are certain risks associated with that because if what if the person selected doesn't serve the purpose eventually? So it's a way to assess that risk and see that because obviously after the end of the interview, if the risk quotient is very high, so recommendation won't be to get that person employed. It's as simple as that, right? So that's why let's not put it like interviews are something to be tasted. From a positive frame of mind, we can see these interviews are a process of us being understood properly. And at the same time, it's a process for us also to understand the organization properly. Now, most of the times at the beginning stage of our career, any interview may feel us very much scared. The interviews feel very scary, right? So that the main reason, the common reason that we come across are fear of rejection, then fear of sounding inadequate, and a lot of time if we don't have confidence that we might not have the perfect answers. Well, now let's address each of them one by one. Fear of rejection. So this aspect, I believe we discussed already during last session when we spoke about how with proper clarity in mind we can go ahead and preparing the proper set of curriculum vitae and resumes. So if we do that part really well and we exactly know that the place where we are going, we serve the purpose for that place and that place serves the purpose to boost our career, so meaning we are to an extent well prepared. So if you're well prepared, so that fear of rejection simply goes down. It should be such that we have clarity that if we get rejected, it's not because of our own inadequacies. It can be anything else, but not the reason. Reason is definitely not some inadequacy in us. So that's why, like when we have proper clarity in mind about ourselves and about our capabilities, so automatically fear of rejection should go out because we assure ourselves of our adequacies. So when we are assured ourselves of our adequacies, then automatically fear of sounding inadequate also goes off. And at the end, if the first two aspects are covered properly, automatically, the fear of not having the perfect answers automatically goes off because by and large, we know the objective and we know that the aspects where a situation might come where we may not have the perfect answers, but then again, this again is a part of the conversation aspect that we discussed during session 4, that if we don't have the perfect answer, we just be honest with the situation and we just tell them honestly to the best extent we know, and whatever we don't know, we just tell them openly, because we are not expected to be perfect from day one. So that's why fear of not having a perfect answer is actually an unrealistic fear. We shouldn't have it. And if we have clarity in our mind and object and are very clear about our objective, then automatically fear of rejection and fear of sounding inadequate, being adequate goes off. And this is what is the purpose of Careers Plus Plus. So by the end of the entire journey, we are quite confident that each of us who has followed each of our sessions, each of our exchange, and of course, which is going to go on for some time now, we will have that clarity and objectivity so that such fears won't remain in our mind. So that's why, to wrap it up, we can, in one sentence, fear increases when expectations are unclear on our side. But with a clear mind and clear objective, those expectations are very clear. And with that clarity, the fear will go away. Now, from the employer's mindset, this is just to share from the personal experience that how the employer will think. Because first things, definitely, I think we had been discussing about it when we discussed about the Q&A during the last session as well, that first question, definitely from the interviewer's viewpoint, they would like to see if this person can do the job to the extent required, right? So when I'm saying that this question comes to the interviewer's mind, it definitely is not that can this person do the job independently from, no, it's not like that, because of course any interviewer would be quite clear in terms of the expectations, and over expecting can lead to disaster. I think that person, if that person is chosen to be an interviewer by their organization, they should have that level of clarity. So automatically when we say can this person do the job, means is this person fit enough to be taken the responsibility at the initial stage and gradually to be molded. All right. And sometime if the interviewer is very good, well, this is something that and if this is not every time it will occur, but if the interviewer is really honest with self, then this is another thing the interviewer will also think, that can I work with this person? Because the interviewer, if they're honest with themselves, they exactly know their own shortcomings. So when they are choosing someone to work as a part of their team, they would also like to see that, like, this person might be very good, everything is perfect, but my own shortcomings. So assuming that I'm working on them, but if those become impediment, will I be able to deviate through, right? So it is actually, if it is put in a very right self introspection, actually they can actually, like, they might think that, okay, will this person can deal with my own, irregularities or imbalances. Okay, this happen. And the third thing, obviously the interviewer will also see positively that will this person grow in this organization if taken into this particular position, because any good interviewer, they would really need to have people on board on a long term basis. They don't want to have these interviews every 2-3 months and have people coming in. So any interviewer who's looking for a team to grow, they really need people for long term. So that's why they would really like to figure out that if this person can grow here or not. Because if they don't grow, they are not going to be there for long term, right? So the growth of the person is also equally important. So that's why a good employer would always think from this aspect. So once we realize it, so we don't have to be worried, because when we go for an interview and our employer is good and they think in that way, see, they're not judging us, they're not trying to pinpoint our shortcomings and so on and so forth. And if they're doing all this, what does it mean? That means that that person is not a good employer. Then why we should waste our life joining with someone who's not a good employer, right? We have better things to do in life. So always, I think in the very beginning sessions of Carriers Plus Plus, we mentioned about that. We discussed about that we are we are. We just try to be the best version of ourselves. No need to compromise too much, right? So that's why a good employer would not look for perfection within us, but when they would try to do some assessment about us during the interview, they're just managing the risk of having a new person in their team, and see the probable way to create longevity of that person within the organization, so that both the person and the organization can grow together. Now, okay, the starting point. So this is where we're talking about the applications before the interview. So it's actually a direct follow-up of what we discussed during the last session about how a CV or resume or our LinkedIn profile should be good, right? So it's just a repetition of that, just to refresh our memory. So applications, whether we do it, you see, the applications always carry our CV. I believe most of us are in the beginning stage of our career, and some of us are already having some experience, so they will go with resume. So automatically, any application will be accompanied with a proper CV, right? So what is a weak application? We already talked about the accompanying document, it's CV or resume, so that's fine. But apart from that, the application also should be in sync with what we send as our resume or as our CV. So that's why an application we would consider to be not that strong if they are very generic. We spoke about this during our last session on the resumes, right? Because like when we're applying for a job with a resume, then our application also should be more to the point. If they're too generic, with a specific resume, it may not sync out well, right? Then we talked about this aspect that sometime if we just randomly kept on saying, the same resume over 20 odd companies, just assuming that we are sending to 22 places, even if one or two replies back, 2% success rate is good, this kind of thing. So, that is again, we even in the application, we have to avoid and then poorly aligned. That means if we, like I said, if our applications are not aligned to the jobs available, because sometimes people would do stunts like this. They think it's a very big company. They might not release any vacancy for so and so position, but then, seeing my CV, they might get no. It doesn't happen like that in an organization. Organizations have to entertain only the applications that's relevant to that particular vacancy, right? So that's why what is a strong application? Exactly the opposite. They're not generic, they should be role specific, right? They should not be just sent as a must, but it should reflect our understanding on the organization. And it should show some intent on our side. So because if we send some poorly designed, a mass supply of our application with a generic resume or curriculum vitae, it shows that we are desperate. It doesn't show any intent. So normally, good employers really need good people with good intent, not someone who looks desperate to get a job. Okay? So that's why the way applications are sent with precise attached documents, that is a resume or a CV, that will decide whether and how in most of the cases the interviews will take place. Okay? So I think we really need to be very mindful of that as well. Now, like how we structure our answers. See, now that phase is gone, right? Okay. Last session we talked about our accompanying document. Now we just talked about it, how we put it. So assuming the application was good, we had a very fantastic, well-aligned resume attaching it. But then when we step in, now this actually goes to the communication part that we discussed during session 4, where one of our friend, we had the discussion that you went with some presentation with a written script, right? So to avoid ambiguities over there, so what we need to focus? We should focus on giving precise answers. So let's not presume too many things. We have sent our application with our resume, and they have invited us for the interview, so they must have done some of the background check, right? Background assessment of their own, right? So they accordingly they will structure their questions. So the answer of every single question should be absolutely clear. It should be structured to the point so that we answer exactly what has been asked, not something else. and it should be relevant. It should be relevant to the questions being asked, right? But because sometimes people tend to speak a bit more than they should, thinking that that level of, you know, deliberation will make the interviewer impressed. Will it really do that? Answer is yes and no. So I'll take the no part first. If the intent is just to show that, okay, I mean, we have a good general knowledge kind of information, and then we have good persona, we dress up so well, we speak very well, a smart interviewer will catch it, and it doesn't it doesn't give him or her a very good feeling, right? But if that extra addition is like adding or introducing something new in terms of context of the topic, in terms of some actions to be taken, or maybe showing some results that has been achieved already in something that's relevant. So that's why, so going back to the very moot points here, good answers are very clear, and we can add some new ideas in that context to get some brownie points. They should be very structured, and we can add some action plan to support that structured answer. And it should be relevant. Definitely, it should be relevant. And then, like, it can be aided with some expression of results obtained already, in the same field. So then the impacts can be much high. The impact can be much higher. Now, automatically, like behavioral questions. So what we discussed earlier were the questions pertaining to that subject for which we are going to be hired. But an interview is not only about uh, knowing the person's skill set on the subject matter, because when a person is sort of recruited into an organization, so obviously they have to have certain behavioral traits as well, because we all are a balance of IQ, EQ, and in fact, nowadays, a lot of places, I personally do that too, spiritual Q as well, SQ as well. So automatically, the behavioral aspects are also equally important, right? So sometime the questions will come. For example, question might come about a challenge that the person has faced in the life. So at that point in time, it's very natural. We're in the early stage of our career. So we may not have a challenge that usually someone would have in the job place. But then again, definitely we have some challenge. Everyone, since the time we are born, we come with challenges. So at least we should figure out, we should think within ourselves that what is the challenging situation we had in life, and what was our thinking process to get out of that challenge. Just to share with you, I won't go to the details. Anytime any one of you want to have me have a discussion with me offline, we can discuss. For me, when I was a student at AIT, I came across a very serious challenge that actually invited, that actually took me to a very critical situation, which was a more of a social challenge. But I figured out a way to get out of it. That event concerned people who were maybe few decades my senior. And then there were some ego clashes which created some other related impediments. But then right after that, just within a month after that, when I stepped into my first job interview, and I was asked that, okay, if you come across some challenge at the workplace, do you have any way to tackle it? I simply repeated. I just told them what happened to me a month back as a student leader at AIT, because I was doing some cultural events where some egos clashed and issues took place, and apparently that really gave me some brownie points in that interview. So it's like that. We all have challenges in our life. It doesn't have to be a challenge at the workplace. It can be any challenge. But when we come across a challenge, What is our thinking process? Let's focus on that and express it, unabashedly and and very honestly. Then obviously questions might come that describe a failure. And again, I believe we all have come across, even small, in a small scale, some failures in life. Failures are fine, that as we have been discussing again and again, but at the time, even at the time of failure, we just need to focus and we need to express that how we took the responsibility of that failure upon ourselves and what we have learned so that we don't repeat that mistake anymore, you know? Then yeah, sometime the questions will come on, like, because if you're in a job place, conflicts are very natural thing, right? In fact, I thought of adding one more than we said to edit off. How do you handle office politics? But it may not be an issue for someone to start with, but that again, eventually it comes. But at least one thing, that how one can handle the conflict at job place. So even in that thing, right? So we just need to be honest that every aspect there is something to learn. So how we approach that. So if we can put it to these aspects with absolute honesty and truthfulness, that should suffice for an interviewer, right? Rather than like telling some hypothetical hero stories, if we just stay honest and put real life experiences into the place over there, that should always help. I mean, definitely interviewers, they would always prefer an honest, hardworking individual over a self-boasting hero who may or may not be actually giving out the facts there. And in fact, our stories are really a hero story, and then nothing can be better, right? But only thing is that speak whatever is the real truth, not anything more than that. Now, yeah. Now, another key aspect that, as we discussed earlier, it's very natural to come across questions which we may have no idea what they're asking, right? So in that case, like like if we are unsure about it, so there can be three genuine cases that you know, why we don't know. First, it just might be we didn't get the question correctly. It can be any reason. It can be maybe lack of concentration or language barrier or the way the language is spoken. There can be many. So at that time, at least try to pause and try to gather our thoughts that, okay, what the question is, rather than getting panic and start guessing wildly and give something which is not even being asked, right? But if we paused and recollected our thoughts, gathered our thoughts, and still we don't get it, then just ask for a clarification. Just ask that, okay, I haven't got the question. Ask. There is nothing to be ashamed of. I think we already had this discussion during the communication session that there's nothing to be apologetic about it. The person has asked a question. It's very natural for us not to understand. So we're asking it again that I'm not getting your question. Can you come again, please? Right? Maybe one one sorry is fine, but it's not like that to be too apologetic for not getting it, right? But after we get the clarification, even after that, if we don't get it at all, that okay, maybe we have no, okay, now we have understood the question and we really don't have the answer. At least as the last resort, try to think aloud that, okay, I mean, do I really know it? And if we don't, say, sorry, I don't know. That's it. No need to get panicked or get frozen or look, completely sort of like demolished, right? I mean, it's very natural. It's very natural not to know, right? So I think these basics, let's so it will at least show that how well composed we are, because just giving instant answers, even though it may not make any sense, doesn't impress a good interviewer. In fact, they will take it as a good sign of honesty and composure. Because let's not forget that whenever an interview takes place at the early stage of our career, a good interviewer will always look for good proteges. So obviously they would prefer to have a honest, abiding protege over someone who simply wants to show off some unrealistic ability. So, see, so based on all this, now we can redefine how we do a professional branding for ourselves, right? So this is basically summing up what we discussed during the last session and what we are discussing today. So professional branding is definitely a consistency across the platforms. Now, last time we talked about three platforms, the one that we promote ourselves through CV or resume or LinkedIn. But now, when we approach in an interview already, how we present ourselves, right? So it is about maintaining consistency across the platform. It's not just some self promotion about how good or how out of the world we are. Then adding reliability in our behavior, not some loud visibility, right? Like I say, that any interviewer would always prefer someone whom they can think, okay, if this person comes, as a part of our team, this person would be suitable to be groomed and to grow with the growth of the organization. Not something that this person is very loudly visible, but then again, it can be a loose cannon, and we might end up getting badly hurt. So I think we just need to put that reliability in behavior, and at the end, clarity in communication. So we send across the correct message about the self, not something inflated image to get some short-term benefits. So that's why clarity in the communication is very important rather than just crafting a false image for some short-term gains. Okay? So so basically our brand should not be what people is expecting out of us, because sometimes we may not even know what people are expecting, right? So our brand, the way we present ourselves, what our true self is. And that's why in parallel we also always should try and be the best version of ourselves. So better, more we work on improving ourselves, automatically the brand gets better, right? So that's why, like, we come across can be again not a topic for this session, but it can be an offline discussion with any one of you, provided you wish to have it. Like how we come across several brands who create a brand name to create value, but at some point in time when it is revealed that it's just the name in the brand, but in reality they're not performing, at some point in time they have to go out of the reckoning. So that's why, like, a lot of time we come across a lot of unicorns, starting up real fast and getting busted. So things like that. So that's a different topic altogether. But then again, the same thing applies everywhere. Like a company can go completely out of business by wrong branding, but after gaining some very serious initial traction, it happens with individuals as well. Maybe that person brand self as something extraordinary without really caring about looking after self ability or improvement in self capability. So that's why by that branding there can be some short term benefits, but long term it doesn't work out. Now, some of the red flags that we would like to just enlist here during these interviews, definitely always focus on self positivity and avoid speaking negatively about the others. Never overclaim or exaggerate on self ability, or like we need to, like I said, if we know exactly about ourselves, so we just focus on justifying that much. preferably not to ramble without structure. If we are asked some questions, as we already discussed, and we don't have the answer, so yeah, like be honest about it. And never ever should show any trait that can give the interviewer a feeling that the person likes to avoid responsibility. So responsibility is something that is an essential trait that any interviewer would like to, see within the person. Because like for example, like I always like to use one phrase that we are the CEOs of what we do. So if someone is a CEO of the company, meaning what? That person is responsible for the entire aspect of that particular company. So automatically, if some person is just laying the bricks on a particular zone of that building, so that person is the CEO of that thing, so have to be fully responsible. Because accountability and responsibility at every hierarchy of an organization makes an organization successful. you know so that's why like we have to be responsible of what we do by heart, and at the same time that needs to be also portrayed out in the interview very clearly. So we just need to make sure that even if we are put under pressure in an interview, our character is so good that, because like they say, interviews will show our real character under pressure. So that's why if we work on improving our character, no matter how much pressure we are under, right, we can still be able to remain good. So that's why it's all about building good character within ourselves. Now the reflections for today: one interview fear that I carry, one strength I should speak about more clearly, and one habit I would like to improve. Let's, have these reflections amongst ourselves, answer to self, and of course, if we want to have any further expansion on it, we will definitely have after this, and even after today's session, all are more than welcome to have personal discussion with our team. Now, the final section of it, that okay, how Carriers Plus aid us in terms of these aspects. So the first thing, like we already have come across that okay, the preparation part, where proper preparation can get us to a confident level, and that confidence can automatically take us to a consistent professional presence, right? So that's why, like, once we reveal our reflection, so automatically, if we know that fear or anxiety around the interviews, so Career Plus can help us, help each of us to understand, that each interview as a conversation, not as examination. So we can elaborate, we can explain, expand more from what we discussed earlier. Then automatically reduce the fear through the proper structuring and preparation work. And we already discussed about it, that it helps to respond us on a calm manner, no matter whatever the pressure is, right? Then if it comes about uncertainty about how to answer interview questions, so we already have touched base upon it. Like, we should answer clearly and confidently, communicate the experience without, over claiming. And then, Career Plus already, okay, we touched base upon during the slides that on how to handle difficult and unexpected questions, and also in the follow-up sessions, and also during any offline discussions that we have, or through our SKUs, all these aspects would be touched by Careers Plus. Thirdly, about confusion on the job selections and application processes. So Careers Plus definitely help with the strategy, then help in aligning the applications, and of course, helps to formulate what is to be prepared before the interview and after the interview, how it can, how the outcomes can be taken forward. So obviously, I mean, we do have an entire package for that, so we discuss on that front. Then in terms of professional image and branding, we already have discussed about this earlier, that how actually being honest, just simply two things, right? Like staying fully aware of self and working on improvement, like a never ending process, and then staying honest. These two things basically can make our branding much more simpler, and then proper representation. So we have all these tools to support ourselves in Careers Plus Plus. And yeah, self doubt after rejection. So this is all. This is again. It has all to do about how we take this rejection as a learning lesson and convert it to a positive energy. So Careers Plus Plus already has all these tools to support and boost ourselves. So obviously, like we have been discussing, the Careers Plus Plus are not just these 30-minute presentations and 25-minute Q&A and discussions. It's far more than that. And then all the community members, you're all part of it. So we can have limitless discussions on getting such issues sorted. So we'll be very happy to be part of each of your job applications and so on and so forth, and how we can work around that. So that's why, like we discussed last time, it's an extension of that to conclude it that we are not working to promise outcomes here at Careers Plus Plus, but Careers Plus Plus prepares each of our community members to face the outcomes with clarity and confidence. And before that, it also helps us, all of us, to prepare with absolute clarity and confidence. And SKUs that's relevant to today's session are the interview question answer toolkit, then star answer builder, and mock interview light. So these are all the, as I discussed during the last session, all these SKUs are under preparation. So by the time we are done with the first half of our first semester sessions, so SKUs will start coming out. But actually, just to announce it today, that during our second semester, basically every single of the SKUs would be discussed in these sessions with a clear direction on how we use them and how to get the best out of each of them. So definitely don't worry that SKUs are coming out soon. And in fact, in similar sessions during second semester, each of us will get hands-on demonstration on how to make the best use of every single SKU for the growth of our careers. That's pretty much it for today's presentation. So now let's have our open sessions. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Barga, for that wonderful presentation, for helping us to understand how we can present ourselves without the pressure of pretending to be someone we're not. So with us today is Professor Dieter Trau, and he would like to give us more tips, information on how to ace our interview.
Okay, so let me add three more points to our session today related to the interview scenario. You know, one is coming back to the slide, what employers actually think, how they think. You know, so you must understand that as an employer, they think in terms of investment. So you are an investment for them. And that investment has already started with the interview because they're spending their time. Then they will also invest other resources into you, the office, maybe a computer, and of course, most importantly, training. So this is how employers think. So you are an investment for you, and of course, they want to get, you know, some return of their investment. They want to get real value back from their investment. So the second point I want to make it, you know, don't see this interview only as an information flow from you to the employer. So you should also think, hey, I also want to get some information out of it. You know, you want to find out if this is really a good employer for you, and I come back to this in my last point. So you also want to find out if this is a good employer you really want to work for. And that leads me to my last point, because usually a good employer in such an interview, they will usually ask you, usually at the end, they may ask you, do you have any questions for us? So, and that's very important that you are prepared for this, because if you have nothing to say, they may consider this as you are not prepared. You have no idea about your organization, you are not prepared, I spent my time here, interview you, why I should employ you. So that's very important to prepare for this point. You should have probably two type of questions here. One type of question may relate to the organization. You need to study their website, their recent activities, and so on. You could say, I studied in your website, and you see you want to go into a new business field. That's exciting. That's also my interest, or something like that. So that they really feel, hey, you are prepared, you know the organization, this person really is interested and want to work here. So a second type of question you could ask is, what is a follow-up? What is a channel to get a reply? Will you send me an email or something like this? This also actually reinforces your will. You want to work with these organizations and you want to become an employer. Yeah? So these things are also very important. So preparation for the interview. Yeah. Okay,
Yeah,
so
thank you.
those are
Thank
3
you.
points I want to
Thank
make.
you very much, Professor Dieter, for your inputs. Also, I have three very basic practical tips. So, as Professor Dieter mentioned, you have to prepare, really prepare, research about the company you're applying to. Because if you don't know, like one interview, I remember I interviewed one person and I asked him, so why do you want to work here? Did you check our website? And he didn't even check the website. So it's heartbreaking to know that you are here, but you didn't even prepare well, that you should at least research our website. Very basic, right? Just a simple website. You can just take a research. And another tip that I can share also is prepare also physically. I mean, you should also prepare in terms of how you dress up, how you clean up, so that when you go to the interview, you are ready and fresh and well, very, business attire would be the best dress to go when you have an interview. And eye contact during the interview matters a lot. Eye contact is really one thing that I would really, emphasize. And also be present in that interview. Even though some of the questions are difficult, you can't really answer all of them, right? But if they feel that you're authentic and sincere, right? And you even admit that I don't know the answer, but I can find out later, I can learn, right? But I think authenticity really will show in how you present yourself. So just be yourself. So if you have any questions, the floor is open for Q&A now, or if you want to share your experience during an interview, you can also share with us. Do we have on Zoom the chat?
Some questions.
Is that a question? Okay, what is one underutilized skill people should make more use of when working with or communicating with leaders or people in positions of authority?
Underutilized skill people should make more use. Modupe, if you're there, can you just elaborate a little bit? What do you mean by underutilized skill?
Maybe like something that's
Sorry,
not necessarily.
your voice is not audible. Just 1 second, please. Just 1 second. Your voice was.
Can you talk again?
Yeah, can you come? Yeah.
Hello?
Yes, we can hear you now.
All right. So like a skill that people don't really like think to use.
So you're talking it from the perspective of getting into a job interview or in general?
I guess like getting into a job interview, but also if someone was to be working already in a company or industry.
Yeah, I can give one quick, probably I understand a little bit the direction where it goes. You know, so one underutilized skills you should use if you communicate with leaders and things like this. You know, one is use of positive language. You know, I give you one simple example. Somebody may say, I don't like to talk to people who cannot explain things right. You know, but you should say, you know, I enjoy working with people who are, you know, clear in their communication and we understand each other and things like this. So this is one example of using positive language. And a positive language is, way more powerful than a negative language. So that is one skill. There are many, many other examples. You can look into it, how to train yourself to use a positive language.
Yeah, I think we already touched base upon this thing, right, in one of the slides, that when we come across such opportunity to have conversations, right? I think Professor Dieter also touched it very well earlier, that when we're seeing someone in the position of power in a particular organization, right? So one thing that can definitely impress that person, that if you show good knowledge of the person's organization, because that person has really worked very hard to take that organization to that level, right? So this can be one thing. So when you meet someone with some position of relevance in an organization, and then you just go and tell that person with a proper, by the way, with a proper survey, you know, not just by 1 minute Google search. So go and review what they have done, and yeah, that can definitely create a positive impact. But again, following the guideline, another slide that says don't over exaggerate. Don't exaggerate the discussion too much. Just prepare 1 or 2 line. And definitely the second thing that Professor Dieter said, that if it can be very positive and like productive, it definitely helps. Yeah. Did you get the answer you wanted, Marupe?
Yes, I did.
What was your second question?
Are you a believer in first impressions matter? How much of an impact does it have, and how quickly can a first impression be turned around in only one session? Example, during an interview or meeting.
Okay, I think we discussed about this in one of the sessions where we had discussed about the proverb, well begun is half done. So definitely first impression matters. First impressions, they do really matter a lot, right? But the thing is that how do we create that first impression? That's very important. If that first impression is created with truthfulness and honesty, then it's perfect. But if that first impression is created through some exaggeration of self ability or something, then, well, we better be careful. I mean, that is not that bad, as long as the exaggeration is not too much. Then we have some time to really work hard and make self to be as good as we have exerted ourselves to be, right? But first impressions definitely that matter. But if it can be created by staying absolutely honest and truthful to self and to the occasion, it's perfect.
What if there's like a miscommunication and then the person reads the room? How can they sort of overcome that?
Miscommunication in what sense, you would say?
Uh I guess like something that would something that would give a negative impact on that person.
But it is
Negative
misunderstanding.
perception.
Okay, so see, the thing is that uh,
It could even be in just like how they conveyed something.
see, sometimes misunderstandings are bound to happen. So if it has happened, like if that person's mood get worse due to some misunderstanding, so the best you can do is to provide the facts and explanation from your side to correct the misunderstanding. And if that person is a good person, so automatically he or she will accept it, right? That okay, it was a misunderstanding. But if that person is driven by ego or some false, mood swing or something, then you don't want to work with that person anyway, isn't it? But the thing is that we really need to find a reason at what caused that misunderstanding. Professor, you want to add on this, the misunderstanding part?
Yeah, so the first point is to realize there's actually a misunderstanding from both sides.
Yeah.
And if this realization was done, yeah, the misunderstanding should be resolved.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
sometimes maybe one side may not realize.
Yeah, yeah. See, I mean, it has to be resolved, like we have been saying, right? At Careers Plus Plus, while we focus on making each one of us the better version of ourselves, but one thing is paramount: being absolutely honest and truthful to ourselves, right? So that's what we've been saying. So as long as we stick to that basic, right? So problems would be much less much less alarming. In fact, there can be an other misunderstanding too, because you might go and present yourself so well that the person might misunderstand you to be then better than what you really are, and that can also create. That happens too. It also happens sometime. The person will consider yourself to be you to be far better than what you are because you presented yourself so well, and that can create some wrong expectations. And if those expectations are not met, that can create some other kind of problem. So misunderstandings can happen on either side, right? But the thing is that as long as we are truthful and honest, so we should be able to get away out of it. Yeah, that's what we would say. Yeah.
I have one question.
Okay, Tangesh, go ahead.
So sometimes, like we come across interviews that are quite hostile. Like sometimes the interview, like some people who take interview or the one people on the other side of the table, they are sort of, we can term it as grilling the interviewer. Like they ask questions, many relevant questions or sometimes irrelevant questions, just to test how the interviewer responds. So how do we maintain composure in such cases? Or how do we stand our ground, be truthful, and answer those questions from such situations?
No, for being truthful and honest, you don't need to have you don't need to have any effort, right? If you're truthful and honest, that's it, right? Now coming to the hostile environment, it's very common. It can happen due to two reasons. One reason, that the person is simply hostile and arrogant. Well, if that is the case, then you also don't want to be with that person, I believe. The second time, it can be on purpose just to see your resilience, right? Because sometimes the interviewers will do that on purpose to see, because see, the thing is that we also need to see that where we are growing, right? So if we're going to have a position where we have a real demanding situations, for example, like we need to have work in the office as well as on the site, regular commuting, so on and so forth. So it creates some stress, right? So sometime the interviewer might do it on purpose to see that how composed we remain, right? And how serious we are. So the thing is that if that is the case, like I said, if we are truthful and honest, we don't have to do anything. We exactly know when we get into the interview, we exactly know what we want. That we exactly know. We have to know. We have to know absolutely, with absolute clarity, why I am here. And that reason should be a little bit more than if I get selected, I'll get salary. It should be a little bit more than that. I believe the C++, Career++ community members will be a little bit more than that. That I'm here in this interview just to get this salary so that I can buy my iPhone. I believe we'll be a bit better than that, right? So if we know that objective, right? And of course, we can presume a little bit that what that organization is expecting from us, right? Now, when all this hostility is coming our way, we just need to see which purpose it's serving. Is it serving any purpose for me? Maybe yes. If I can take this hostility, when I get in the real job, some hostility come even worse than this, I'm prepared. At the same time, this hostility is serving their purpose as well to see my resilience, right? So, but the thing is that if it is absolutely nonsense, that just to prove a point, then obviously you don't want to be with an employer like that, right? That's how I would put it. Professor, you want to add? Yes.
Yeah, so it might have the purpose of testing you under stress.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe for certain jobs this will happen in this organization, and they just want to test you out. So I mean, then it's not really a bad intent. So you have to be careful to, interpret it immediately as a bad intent or some
Yes.
negative intent. So just stay honest, normal, calm. Yes.
Yeah, let's not run into conclusion. I'm just just one example came to my mind while we were having this discussion. One very reputed brand working on hard disks and semiconductors. What I heard, okay, I haven't experienced because I'm from a different field, but what I heard from my friends, in fact, I'm not sure if Hemant is there today. He himself got it. Like when he went for an interview to be part of their R&D, so what he found that he was invited for half a day. He was invited at 9 a.m. and the interview was supposed to be 12. So he was wondering what is going on. So he was just asked to sit in a meeting room. And initial 2 hours, it was like anyone who would be his future colleagues, provided he gets the job, will just rope in, talk this, then, oh, you're here for an interview, right? Things like that, just casual discussions. And he was like, what the hell is going on, right? And then only at last half an hour, some senior who would have been his boss came for the interview. But at the end of the day, it was as simple as that. It was just a test of patience of the person, because if you're in the R&D, and that too in a very complex thing like that, so do you really have the patience? Because if you cannot even have a tolerance of, having like this 3 hours of patience, and how you're expected to, having like sleepless nights in this lab, something like that. So yeah, everyone has their own way. So that's why, as I said, right, we need to be very clear about what our objective is for that interview, and we should have some idea what the organization's objective might be, right? So whatever is happening during that interview, if it's serving either purposes, should be fine. Yeah.
Very interesting conversation. I think that's it. We don't have any more questions. So join us again next week. Next week, we will move beyond jobs into higher studies and global education pathways. So be sure to be with us on Monday, same time, here at CareersPlus Plus. Thank you all for joining us today. Thank you, Professor Dieter. Thank you, Mr. Berga.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, thank you all.
Thank you very much.
If you found this helpful, please hit like, share it with your circle, and subscribe to Careers Plus for more content that supports your career journey.